This is Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast, a podcast about, you guessed it, nonprofit fundraising. This isn't the first podcast about it, but definitely not like any others you've listened to. This is a podcast for fundraisers, by fundraisers. No boring charts or the same stale best practices you've heard for years. No ideas that only work in theory here. No concepts from people who aren't in the same trenches as you are every single day. Each week, you'll get practical strategies and tips to craft messages that engage donors and raise more money. This isn't smoke and mirrors. Everything has been pressure tested in the real world. Plus, you can start using them as soon as the episode ends. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Thomas and Steve Thomas.
Hello. Welcome to episode 10 of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.
The Decapod.
The Decapod. Yeah. I was told there was going to be no math. So
I'm not sure that's right. That just occurred to me.
that sounds right. Yeah. Decathlon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which means racing.
Oh gosh. Well, you've already gotten your money's worth this week, haven't you? This is Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast, episode Deca X or 10.
X. Oh, nice.
Yeah, the iPhone X thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Not the podcast X.
The Roman numeral.
I'm your host, Ryan Thomas.
And I'm Steve Thomas, occupying the role of spoiler and
Statistician.
problem child.
And we are respectively Vice President and CEO at Onicity. That's Oneicity. No X. And we focus on fundraising and marketing for nonprofits. That's what gets us out of bed. And we've been in the game about 10 years. And
Well, longer. The
company's been
over
around.
a decade.
Yeah, the company's been
We're a
around.
deca and a third-ish.
Oh gosh. This one's going to be great. And this is what everybody tuned in for, actually, off the last one. So we started this podcast. Actually, this episode seems like it was 20 minutes ago, but we started the podcast itself because if you're in this work, if you do fundraising, you get that this doesn't stop. And 5 o'clock doesn't mean you're done talking about the work, thinking about the work. And Friday, Saturday, same thing. And you had these conversations. We were having the same conversations you were probably having. And we realized we had a podcast before we had mics and before we were recording anything.
Some of my best material did not get recorded. I'm just going to say.
Well, we get it. We'll get it in post.
Best.
Yeah, quote unquote best. But so that's why we started, because we wanted to have an extra seat at this quote unquote table for you, the fundraising audience, to join us and you participate in the email, but not talk with us about it.
Yeah.
And if you're paying really close attention, you probably noticed that we share a last name, which means that ideally podcast makes a little more sense, or the title.
The
anyway.
father's part.
Yeah, the Not Your Father or the Father. We knew Vader was coming, so that's a good one. Give us your 5-star reviews
Or not. Come on. It's a free country.
No, we got to ask for it. Like you would you want
If you
in your
don't
ask in your
if
ask
you don't ask,
array.
you don't get.
You have a
There
gift
you go.
that's above their behavior. So if you've given a 4-star review before, we're asking you to up your engagement and up your involvement and partnership with the podcast.
Nice.
Give us your 5-star reviews wherever you get your podcast and send your questions. This is where we'll take your non-positive feedback and constructive
we'd love to
criticism.
be. What would you cover next time? And
Send your questions to podcast@onicity.com. It's an email address I actually do check. So it's not a password I've lost.
Unlike
it'll get
most
to
of
us.
your other passwords.
There's one password that I don't use that app or website because I can't figure out even what email it's tied to. But so that's
Okay. We're getting to business.
we're getting to business. So this week we are talking about the continuation.
Well, it's a part. It's a
Part deux.
deux. Oh, this is so multilingual, right?
Oh, and Deux has an X in it, so we've carried the theme. Circle gets the square.
There you go. No whammies.
That's right. And last week, if you haven't listened to episode 9, go back and listen to that, or skip ahead to episode 11. Those are really your only options.
Yeah, because this will be a confusing one.
This is like
More
choose your own
confusing
adventure book.
than it already
yeah,
is.
more. Well, dear listener, if you weren't already confused, you will be soon. And
On the stats, you'll have to watch to see how many people at that moment just
hop off.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But we talked about a concept we call leader voice in the Hollywood screenwriting arena, and then the for-profit world, they call it the character diamond, but building the actual personhood of your leader to help them come off the page and not be a name anymore, but a three-dimensional figure,
Someone
real
person.
person.
Right. Yeah. And let's give credit our friend and business partner Roy H. Williams down in Austin. Yeah, Wizard of Ads. Roy has Williams Marketing, which is a fabulous for-profit marketing company, both his business and who he works for. And this comes out of their work out of screenwriting. And so he's taught us, and we have adapted it for our nonprofit clients.
And so last week we explained the concept, tried to get the buy-in, and now this week, hopefully that piqued your interest.
Do we give a little bit of a? I mean, we can give a little bit from last week.
That's true. So before we get into that topic, because we do have a couple things in front of it, we'll reset. Okay. We'll do a previously on Not Your Father's Fundraising podcast, and walk through a little bit of the concept, and that can tell you, ooh, okay, I do want to go back and listen to episode 9, or I'm going to skip it to episode 11.
Yeah.
Either way.
We just do such bad fundraising, I don't want to make mine better. Because someone could say that.
Yep.
Somebody could think that.
Our stuff sucks, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So
because I'm just getting paid.
Yeah, my board doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's coming. So get ready for your reset, and then the how to do that thing we talked about last week, which could also be another segment. But our first segment is something you should be doing if you're not already. And this is a concept that doesn't take a long time to get ready and put into practice. Not nearly as long as the thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't take a big budget at all.
Well, let's get to it.
All right.
The setup took longer than
the setup takes longer than putting into practice. So mine is, if you're not already, you should be paying attention to the impact that's going to come to donors that occurred before the thing you're reading or planning or reviewing, and then also what's coming after. And thinking about, if I'm a donor in this series of 3, before, present, after, what am I seeing? Mm-hmm. Are they all the same size envelopes, the same type of open? Are they asking for the same thing?
Have I got the same subject line?
Mm-hmm. All of those concepts, components, if you want to have as many different as possible, not so different that it seems like it's coming from a completely different organization.
Right. Yeah.
But in email, you wouldn't use the same subject line twice. You wouldn't use the same email banner image twice. In direct mail, you wouldn't want to use the same envelope size and color 3 or 4 times in a row, because a donor gets used to seeing that, and that just falls past their brain. Their brain isn't interested.
Here's the line: predictability is invisibility.
Well, that's really good.
Let's hashtag that.
That makes up for your other ones. If you're not already, you should be doing that. And if you are, the additional time you're spending to think in 3 phases of time is well worth it. Mm-hmm. And we've helped people do that, and that alone has helped people have demonstrable results improve.
Yeah, and I've watched you prep for meetings and for planning purposes, and laying everything in on the conference table at the office, mm-hmm. of all the pieces, because there's nothing better if you're doing the direct mail or something like that, where you actually lay them out. You look at the size, you feel of them, you touch them, you open them.
And even in email, I'll print them out just to see how they look. I mean, not the same as looking on your phone, but you want to get that 30,000 foot view.
But don't just drop into the piece that you're thinking about without considering what preceded and then what might be to come, if you know that.
Yep. Even if they're not a series, because obviously that makes sense if they're all related to the same, a summer series or whatever. But even if they're disparate, you still got to do that.
Okay. I like that.
What you got?
So consider, even though it may not fit a business rule, and so what made me think about it is we got an email from someone we made a donation to, and the email started with question about your recent online donation, and then it says, "Hi Chris, thanks for your support of X. Yesterday you made a donation through our website designated to this. The P.O. box you entered is connected to the company, Winnicity, in our database. And I'm wondering if that donation is from you personally or if it's from Winnicity. And I wanted just to make sure we receipt this donation correctly." So,
wow.
Pretty impressive. This is not a small organization, so for clarity. And this is not a person that knows us or we know. This is something we do. And so one of the things to recognize is that donors often will have, and so you call it a lot of different things, but they got multiple pockets. They may make many entrepreneurs and small business people like us make donations from the company, and then they also make individual personal donations, all of which can look the same. And not only can look the same, but can actually then either unintentionally or intentionally, you end up creating multiple accounts in your database, which may or may not be correct. And so it is worth looking at a business rule with whoever deals with accounting or whatever to take a look at. Online donations is where a lot of it happens because you're often not giving as much information as is in the database. And the things that you have are email and account numbers on a credit card, that kind of thing. And so it's really nice to have a business rule that sets in place for the nice folks in accounting or
and by business rule, is this an automatic complicated algorithm?
No,
or
I'm talking about,
when in doubt.
I love 3x5 cards. It can be on a 3x5 card. It's just when an online donation comes through, we're going to look it up in the database to see if before we create an account or before an account is created that we agree to, yes, I want the online system to create that account, that you just check. We're agnostic about how this works, but you should have a business rule that you're happy with and fits your system around this very specific. It's not a problem, but it can become a problem if you're doubling accounts every time someone gives an online donation because you think they're a print person. Oh, they only give direct mail until they give online. Oh, but we've set up 2 accounts. How convenient for that? Or however it works. Just look at your process, think that through, think about it ahead, put it in place. Business rule that just says if this happens, do this. If that happens, do this. Agree in the cool of the moment, let it play out 6 months or a year, analyze, wow, we have 25% fewer duplicate accounts. What a nice concept.
Yeah, if you could cull that down, that would be awesome.
Because that impacts so many different things. Nothing more fun than looking at analytics and finding out, because we usually find these things out when we start doing analytics.
Yep.
You have 10% of your the donors you think are actually duplicates. Sorry. Let's work that out. Yeah. So there you go. I'm done.
It's easy.
That's my DECA.
That's your DECA.
Yeah.
Well,
Funny.
Previously on
Not Your Father's Podcast.
There we go.
Fundraising podcast.
That's important. Not Your Father's Podcast was already taken. That was taken when I went to register
this banter really well. I'm so impressed with you.
Either well or horribly. Depends on how you look at it.
Well, you're pretending well. I'll take that.
I'll take that. And on episode 9, last week, or really it was last week for us, we talked about the concept of people give to people. We all know that. If you're in fundraising, you've heard that. That doesn't just apply to the people being helped via your organization. That also applies to the donor giving a gift to a person, not to an organization, not to the name. They're giving it to the person who is signing these letters, who is signing these emails. And you have to make that person jump off the page. They have to be a person and not a name. People, it's not people give to names, people give to people.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you make them jump off the page?
How do you become a people in that
I can't,
moment?
you know, I can't clone my leader 300,000 times and send him to every, send her to every house.
Yeah.
So,
and you could say, oh, well, she's a person just like you.
yeah, but
That always
anybody can
makes
say
no-
that.
yeah.
How do you show that?
Exactly.
And you need to do it in a way that the donor sees and understands they are real without you telling them they are real. In the robot apocalypse, robots tell you we aren't going to take over, or if it's an android and it looks like a person, it says, "No, I'm real," or "I'm the bad twin," and you can't say it. Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
How do you show it?
Yeah.
So that's where we are this week. And same.
Last week we gave the structure, how you.
That's true. Yeah.
What the structure looks
So
like.
what's the structure look like? If you're
a
going to naysay, you're going to have to do it.
I wasn't naysaying. It looks like a diamond.
You might say baseball diamond.
Baseball diamond, yeah, not like a engagement ring. Baseball diamond, and each base, including home plate, which is not a base but is sort of a base, all have designations. So the second base at the top is what in the screenplay world they call the North Star. This is the most visible characteristic. This is what you would see instantly.
What you instantly notice about that person.
Right. So from second base, we go to the opposite of that at home plate, which is a base. On
Designated hitter.
On our diamond. And that's often called the counter star, which is the...
Surprise. It's not often, or it's not always 180 degrees from the
Which
North
is what
Star.
you wouldn't expect, right?
Yep. If you only know the information of second base,
Right.
home plate would
Be like,
surprise you.
Okay.
Huh,
Yeah,
really?
That's interesting. Okay. Then third base on the left side is a vulnerability.
A resume vulnerability.
Yeah. So we're not talking about your deep personal secrets, which
Because good luck asking your executive director to tell you that.
because if they will tell you, that's an alert right there for you. Anyway, so but it is a something that is helpful, and we gave a great example last week that we've done for a client of a vulnerability that actually made that leader seem stronger. So go back if you haven't gone back to that one.
We're not going to give it away.
Yeah, no. And then first base, which is the opposite on the far right side of this diamond we're envisioning, and that is the
Core identity.
hill you're going to die on, right? What this is about, right? What's the one thing that person is always going to bang the table on in the meeting? Is always going to say, "No, we are not going to do that.
We're
Or
not turning away
gonna
from
stop.
that.
We're not going to quit that." That kind of a thing. Okay, good.
So
this is about. That was good. Are you ready to sign
that was
off?
good. So that's it.
Yeah.
Have a great week. The problem now becomes if you, dear listener, have said, "Oh, that sounds great. My leader is very charismatic. I want them in every home. This is a great way to do that."
Yeah.
Tell me how. So now you're here.
Yeah.
Same caveat applies as last week.
Which one is that?
There were many, but the one that still applies this week is that this is extremely difficult to do in the best of circumstances in the laboratory environment.
Is this where you say, like the disclaimer on those Daredevil shows? These are professionals. Don't.
Yeah, these
don't
are
attempt this.
It's a combination. These are professionals. This is very difficult to do.
Huh?
Try this at home?
But
Question mark.
well, oh, absolutely. Try this at home, but try it cautiously.
Try it in pencil, not in
There
pen.
you go. Yeah.
And so all of this, you're going to want to
But first, think about the magic is you are not creating something, you're revealing something.
That's a good way to look at it. It's almost an onion. You're peeling a little bit back, you're revealing.
Yeah. And you're trying to make sure that the reveal is not just because, oh, well, that's interesting. The reveal is to move the ball on behalf of your organization. What can we reveal? What will be interesting? What can we tell about the leader? What can the leader tell about themselves in a way that's sort of a backhand or a soft touch that reveals, but it's still talking about what the organization's about.
Mm-hmm. Now, while I was coaching my grandson's little league, I thought about the kids who don't have the same kind of school supplies, sporting supplies, where I realized this is why we have our after-school program. Yeah. And let me tell you about that. Yeah. It's super important. Give us your money.
Exactly. Give us your money. That was a little abrupt.
That was the other name of our podcast.
Give us your money.
It was already taken. It was taken on. I looked for it. It was taken. They haven't done any episodes that I could see, but they were squatting.
Do you know that most podcasts have how many episodes total?
One.
So you've got us 10 times ahead. It's awesome. Okay.
5-star ratings approved. Okay. So you've got the diamond.
Yep.
You've got the why.
Yep. Now how to do it.
The goal. We've been hunting all around the how.
You just and it's hard to know who's listening to this, but this could be the executive director, CEO, the leader listening, going, I gotta tell about myself.
Oh, that's a good point.
It could be somebody who writes on behalf of the organization. It could be. I know we have small agency listeners like us that other people stealing our great ideas so that they can sell them.
Try to hit us out on the.
Yeah, exactly.
If
you're doing it for yourself, let's start there.
Okay.
How about that? Okay. So I'm going to take us back to. So I noticed in the intro of the podcast, we say something about this is not like a podcast you've ever listened to on fundraising, right?
Correct, we do.
Talk about, because this podcast is your thing.
Correct.
I pushed and wanted us to do it, but you're the one that led it, and you didn't want to stuffy clicking through PowerPoint. Hey, I'm here to tell you how to do your fundraising.
Here's the webinar.
Yes, and this will increase your ROI 17%. Okay, so you didn't drive that way. Why?
Correct. First, I find that boring. Second, that's not who I am, and neither is it who you are. And so I think I see where you're going with this, and that you could tell we don't rehearse this. We are doing a version of this character diamond, of this leader lens in front of you, dear listener, in that we're peeling back who we are.
Exactly.
What we're like, because you're not listening to this podcast because we have content you can't get anywhere else.
I don't know. Some of it's really good, but
a lot of it you could find somewhere else.
Agreed.
If you're listening still, it's because you find us somewhat humorous and engaging, and it's not stuffy and
it doesn't. It is intentionally not like anybody else's.
Correct. Okay? Because when we set out to do this, that's a good point. We said there are other ones out here. Why
doesn't need another boring fundraising?
No.
Or another boring but really great content podcast.
Yeah, either the key is boring and uninformative, boring and informative. I think there are very few people who are looking for that.
Agreed. So I think that is sort of your proof of why this works is. If someone is ever wants to hear our content, know what we know about, it is the combination of the content and the fact that they're like, what? Okay, okay, this wasn't horrible. I kind of enjoyed listening to that. I didn't take as many notes as I thought I would, but okay, that's good, right?
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things you're doing, just to observe, and we'll just, let's just
We're
pull back
plowing
the
in.
curtain. Yeah, is that we're encouraging people to do their version of it. Now, one of the things I love, and I've just resisted being too serious because I don't want to be the old guy who is, saying, well, we need to get back to the agenda points. So the intentionality on my part is to bring good content, but to be who I am without regard for the way it's supposed to be. So that's, if someone doesn't love us, they wouldn't love us working for them. We wouldn't love working for them either, right?
Correct.
So the version of this for a nonprofit is, if your leader, who you're talking to, if you buy the fact that people don't give to a cause, because almost maybe every cause out there is duplicated somewhere. I mean, there's
very few.
There's very, very few, and maybe none. But okay, let's allow for there to be a few that are single. So you have to stand out. You have to be interesting, intriguing, and if you can make your leader voice, whoever's speaking for the organization, be slightly less boring than the other guys, you have an instant leg up.
Because attention is 85% of the battle.
It's a big chunk. There you go. Okay, so that's the why. Let's talk. So it could be
Back
a leader.
to the agenda.
It could be, because I've got 3 bad cards. You've got a laptop.
I'm on slide 14.
Yeah. Or it could be someone writing on their behalf. So either way, you have to sit down and think about these 4 components. What am I willing to be involved with here? How does this work? And then how do I integrate it into, so it doesn't feel artificial like anything else? When you try it the first time, it's going to feel bad and you won't do it as well as subsequent times. And the whole point is you don't fill up the impact with, and by impact I mean direct mail or an email or a website. You don't fill it up with that kind of stuff. But so for instance, how you and I don't know where you're going with this, so I realize I better back off a little bit.
Either land the plane or don't. This is great.
I'm
We got the flares out. We're good.
So it's really important that you think about. Don't skip this step and just say, "Hey, I'm going to talk about personal stuff." I mean,
that's key.
It's
got to be thought through.
And you got to watch the boomers like me who are going to start telling stories with morals. And well, when I was a kid,
we don't suggest stories with morals in your fundraising.
And we don't never say anything without intentionality.
Correct.
And in
that's
fact,
when it works.
My spontaneity is carefully planned because, in spite of the way it looks, I'm enjoying the fact that we're moving the ball down the path exactly like you set out to do, but I'm enjoying doing it differently than you wanted to because it's so much that adds the engagement in this moment. Okay? So,
correct.
So, okay. And that lets you be serious. That's kind of fun.
To be clear, I do love a plan.
Yes, you do.
even though as my wife can attest, I don't often accomplish it on the weekends, but I have a plan.
Yeah.
It's
empty. Fun to watch you just deal with the fact that the plan is not working as well,
great.
and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
on camera.
We're live and on air.
And we don't edit.
We sure do not.
Okay, so
now that you got the points.
Okay,
now that you got the points, and now that you know why you want to do it, and in all jest, it was key that what you said was don't just start throwing this in. This isn't a Mad Lib. You've got to be conscious of it, and you've got to be conscious to what you're talking about, but we'll get to that. How we have done this for leaders and organizations in our team is we get our people together.
So for those that are paying attention, it is raining like crazy here in the studio.
Your tree's moving.
Yeah.
So if
you hear
this cuts out,
sign from God to start over.
A cow, another cow.
Twister references.
That was great.
Yeah, that's good.
If we are doing this for a leader, we bring our team together and we sit down. We say, here are the 4 points. Everybody remember, here's the goal. In the future, we'll just have them listen to episode 9 of the podcast. And we start taking in a no bad idea brainstorming session about this leader, about this person. And we just start putting anything anybody has for any of these points just gets tossed on the whiteboard.
That they know about this person.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
not making them up, right?
No, not making them up. But and some ideas are bad. Some get switched and get tossed up as a North Star. But then we realize, well, if we talk about it another way, that actually should be their vulnerability or the hill they die on. And this can be the North Star or whatever it is. I suggest you do something similar, even if you're small. Find someone else, even if they aren't on the copywriting team, on the fundraising team.
Or if
someone
you're the
else,
leader,
or if you're the
yourself.
leader, have someone in the room with you. It's got to be collaborative.
Yeah.
But when you do that, again, no bad ideas. And once you have all of your concepts, options, some will instantly be obvious. You got to cross them off. Some will be, the way to kind of figure out is then you build the concepts. You take the options, you take the permutation, you try to build a diamond. Mm-hmm. But, so let's start at the North Star. If we were doing this as a team and I was leading this, I would say, okay, what does somebody first notice about this leader on the surface? That can be, if I saw them at the supermarket, what would I first notice about them? Or if I just started following them on Facebook and Facebook is the only interaction or only info I get from them, what do I get about them on the surface?
Or if all I've ever seen is our fundraising materials, what would I gather from them?
Right. Is this person a hunter? Are they a surfer? Do they have an accent? If your organization is in a different part of the country from where they grew up, down here, we'd say, oh, do they talk like a Yankee? Well, that would get noticed if you had a Boston accent in the South and vice versa. So what is it that makes them stand out and get attention on the surface? Visibly. Or audibly.
Yeah, I meant superficially.
But
Sorry.
yeah, superficially. Yeah. That's a better way to put that. Now moving to the counter star. And again, you take all the options, no bad idea. Just everybody spit them out or put them on a pad.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we're going to the counter star. Given that information, what would surprise somebody to learn about this leader? If they knew the surface thing, one of the examples I like to use is if you're working at this organization and you meet somebody at a cookout or a barbecue and they say, what do you do? Well, I work here. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love the way, they help animals, but I think it's really cool that they're led by somebody who loves to surf.
Yeah.
And
you don't have to connect this to the organization. It's just them as a person.
Yep. And then you say, yeah, it is cool that they love to surf, but
did you know they grew up in Malibu?
Yeah.
Or
did you know that they couldn't swim until 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
And you're not worried about how you're going to work this into you're genuinely just filling out this. You're just you're fleshing this
out.
person out.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, man,
there we go.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to write that down.
You'll know when it's sort of right. And like you said, it's key to not get caught up on, oh, that's a good one, but how would we ever use that? Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Then you go to what is usually the hardest one, is the vulnerability, the weakness. And again, these are resume weaknesses, resume vulnerabilities. I care too much. I'm too on time.
I can't turn loose of things.
I just do the work perfect. It's so annoying. If you are a leader or if you're working with the leader in this exercise, or really in the third person in a group, one of the ways I help people wrap their brain around it is what advice would they give someone else to not do less of, that maybe that advice would be best turned to them. As I often give people advice, you ought to relax a little bit. You shouldn't be planning everything out. Don't worry about being completely on time. 5 minutes early is fine. You don't have to be 10 minutes early. And I ought to just look in a mirror or be the pot or the kettle. That's a way that you can think about, okay, where do we start?
Right.
And then you can have somebody who writes good resumes, take a stab at that.
Yeah.
And
because again, you're not wanting to reveal a weakness that diminishes the leader or the organization. You're looking for something that, again, back to that fleshing out thing, that adds a third dimension. You've already, on your diamond, talked about or written down or dealt with the what's a surprise. Now this makes him real.
In a show or a movie, if it all works perfectly or the character always makes the right choice, it's boring.
Yeah.
Of course, they knew how to defuse that bomb.
They knew it was the red wire.
It's stupid. But when the hero makes a mistake or makes a choice that your head is in your hands watching them make that mistake, what are you doing? That's when it's real.
Yeah.
Say you have a leader, and if we have a leader listening, I'm sure this isn't you, but there are other leaders who can get distracted by shiny things. Maybe a mid-level millennial strategy or
Coming soon
from us. Ours won't be a shiny thing to distract you. Ours has substance, but there are leaders out there who they don't finish things. They see something, they hear about a webinar. Okay, we're leaning into that. We're doing that. Now we're doing this.
Yeah.
Now we're doing this.
Yeah.
If that's the case, well, then that becomes that they can't let their passion be held to one project.
There you go.
They have such a passion for the work that they have multiple projects
or they're
going.
just never satisfied with where we are, right? We just got to do it.
We're always moving forward.
Always trying to move forward. We're looking.
Maybe you've got somebody who doesn't have a filter and they say exactly what they're thinking, not on a podcast, but in general.
In general, whether they just are so concerned about doing things right. Sometimes they just speak their mind, and it's uncomfortable for weak people.
And that's how you turn it around. So when you're thinking about how to do this, first make a list, and then don't worry about how to use it.
Yeah, don't think about that yet.
And in the weakness, vulnerability, don't worry about how to spin it. Just get the vulnerability down, and you won't even really be talking about how to package that anyway, because you would never say, I'm just so passionate about this work, I never have one thing going. We're always doing another project. You wouldn't say that. So get that done. Then take a deep breath. And ironically or surprisingly, the counterstar to this is that the hill they're going to die on is usually the hardest thing for me, because leaders usually have such a passion for the work that it can be difficult to dial in on that one thing. And this cannot necessarily be about the work, but the hill that they're going to die on often relates to the work. And one way I have had success a couple times figuring it out is talking to team members who work with that leader at the client and say, so what makes their eyes light up?
Or what makes them crazy if you suggest changing it?
Correct. Or what will they not shut up about? Where does their tone drop?
And that can be about a project, a demographic, a country,
anything.
It all needs to be. It shouldn't. Back to your surfing thing. It shouldn't be somebody who the hill they're going down is they're going to surf every morning, right? Because that's difficult to make work in a fundraising context.
And in a vacuum, that's probably not the hill they would die on.
Exactly. Even if it's a big deal.
And usually a leader, if you're around them talking to donors, something will make their eyes light up. Something will make their voice drop, because what you really have to understand about the work we do is this. If you only walk away from this with one thing, it's that we help blah, blah, blah.
If you're going to give to one part of our work, don't leave this out.
Yeah.
So once you have those 4 things, and I've watched you work clients with this, and those 4 things, often the way I've seen you do this twice now, get it not past. You get a leader to really understand this works is by having their team go, oh yeah, that's them.
And it can be, when you get to the vulnerability, I prefer to look at everyone but the leader in that, because I know I've got it right if everyone's eyes are wide and everyone has gone very still.
Yeah, it's like
no one wants to nod, because if the leader sees them nodding, like, oh man, when was our last payday? I don't know. I just bought that couch. Like, oh gosh. That's when you know you got one.
Yeah. And once you once you got those 4, right? Then you put that on your website, on your homepage.
Correct. That's your new logo. That's your new. We also do logo work.
Not that one.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But you get it through your internal team. Sort of think of this like layers of a sieve. Yeah. The first layer is through your internal team working on this, or if you're a leader, you and the counterpart that you're collaborating with. The next layer is, and usually in our case, it's the team at the client, at the organization, talking through that. Okay, well, I think that you quibble. Sometimes we move some things around. It usually doesn't get blown up, thankfully. Yeah. Then
you're really good at this.
Well, yeah, the first one was ugly, but you get up, you learn. After it's locked in, it's set in stone. Then you really use it when you're kicking off projects or you're talking about fundraising impacts. And it's not, okay, so last time we talked about the North Star. So next on the list is the Counter Star.
Because we got to do that one. It works best if you match concept of your impact to one of the points. Because you're envisioning... And the way one should is you plan out your year. Here's all the things we've got going, and you plan out the impacts. If you've got direct mail or email or events or whatever, you plan all those things out. And you have themes and topics and asks and all that stuff, and then you're beginning to think about, how do we talk about this in copy when I'm going to write an email or a letter or a website. That's when you begin to sprinkle this character diamond flavoring in, right?
Yeah, that's when you build it. You know this is going to be an email for back to school.
Yeah.
But you knew that back in January. Right. But as you sit down to write that email, you look at, is there an opportunity? And spoiler alert, there's not always an opportunity.
And you don't have to do this every time.
And that's fine.
Yeah, in fact, it's probably best.
Because then it has more impact and more pop when you do. But say you're doing back to school, if you have the opportunity to talk to the leader in advance about going back to school, stories from their past, what was their favorite subject, anything school related, you tie that in, and you can grab one of these things that apply to that, or you think about maybe it's a lead of your email or your letter, which are the first couple lines that grab the attention. Oh, okay, that is one heck of a lead. We knocked that out of the park. I love that. Or the writer. Sometimes we have writers who will write the lead in the creative meeting, and okay, yeah, that's not bad. Okay, we can work with that. But then, is there anything from that can tie and match to any of these points?
Yeah. Because you're not wanting to throw in something just to throw it in, or because we have not used that whole leader thing in.
It's been a while.
Yeah, better get that.
It's got to be organic.
I better talk about my struggles.
If it's not organic, it's gonna come across fake, and that's worse.
Yeah.
If you can't do it well,
skip
it.
Just write a bunch of organizational stuff.
Yeah, anything but that.
We robots need you to give to this cause.
We are not fake. We are not taking over. And I want to be slightly encouraging. We joke about how hard this is, but
Not if you try.
correct. If it really that could have sounded like a joke, but if you keep pounding away at this, and it may take 6 months.
You won't be comfortable at first.
Not
If you've not been revealing anything about your personhood. I mean, one of the things that I'm enjoying in all candor is Ryan's discomfort at how much I have peeled back in this. It's not your favorite.
No, this is not. If we're ranking, this is, I guess, 10 out of 10.
But this is perfect for this topic and why we're not just clicking through PowerPoint and giving a transcript of here's all our case studies and blah, 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 blah. People connect with people. Mm-hmm. That is so powerful in the nonprofit space. And if you're doing anything differently, if you are not thinking about how you're connecting your leader voice, and it's a whole nother topic if you're only writing from the organization, and there are still a few that still do, sadly, you've got to be sure you've got a person speaking for the organization and the cause to people. And people want this connection. And this is a technique, it's not the only one, but it works very, very well to make sure you have. Let me back up. One of the things that if you figure out your version of this, right, and how whoever is doing this does this, one of the things you will do is you'll get better and better at it, and you will find other ways that don't take up a long piece of a direct mail thing or a long email to just drop in a little humanity. It's a little sprinkle of personhood, and that makes the difference.
And to be clear, one, you're correct. It does make a difference. Two, sprinkling it in is not going to triple your ROI for that job instantly. It might, but
getting noticed makes a huge difference.
But that's the key. That's what I want to say is you may go through the discomfort of doing this, building the diamond, convincing other stakeholders to let you try this. You do it once. They're checking the reports, logging into the database.
It didn't increase the response.
We did just as well.
Our open rate's the same.
Yeah. So we're not doing that anymore. No.
Yeah. Stay with it.
Just like you can have someone who you meet at a barbecue and you don't hate them, but you don't love them on first impression. But the more you get to know them, we all have that person that the more we got to know them, the more we connected, the more we like them.
Yep.
If they didn't keep jumping off the page, you would have blown them off.
And so let's just be clear. Much like this podcast, what you're doing, no one else can do.
Correct. Because no one else has your leader.
Your version of the leader voice, and no one has the things you're doing. So you are building a very potent attention-getting vehicle message. It is weaponizing fundraising in a good way.
That should have been the title. Weaponize your fundraising, parenthetically, but in a good way.
People don't. It's benign. Are you still feeling good about this topic?
Not really.
It made you uncomfortable.
Yeah, it made me very uncomfortable, and it's important. It's vital to a lot of the work we do. So it's something I wanted to share. But man, there have been a lot of easier ones to talk through.
So you didn't go after any low-hanging fruit. I like that.
I should have.
This is the podcast we have here. We're going at it.
And eventually we'll get back to low-hanging fruit, but
that'd be a great topic next week.
Oh, that would be. But this is, I guess, in addition to seeing this as an example of character diamonding, leader lensing, seeing us struggle, particularly me, struggle with explaining it in a situation where I can't see you, I can't talk with you, I don't know you. Seeing that struggle, but yet hear us say it's really important to do, I think is important.
Agreed. And your worst effort, assuming you're not revealing secret vulnerabilities on behalf of a leader, you really can't go wrong weaving these kinds of, you are sprinkling humanity and personhood into your fundraising. Ain't nothing but good about that.
Yeah.
But this gives you a structure, a paradigm, a grid, a diamond to work in, so that you're not just throwing in random things. It's all intentional. And intentionality always beats random. Every time.
It's in the Mad Lib.
Yeah.
So, super easy. As you can tell, this is one of the easiest things to do.
I can't wait to see what topic next week is,
Yeah.
because you were going to really go after the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, we're going to go with a gimme. It's going to be the double buck equivalent of a podcast episode. And if you don't get that, tune in next week and we'll explain what double bucks are.
Yeah.
But that's how you do it. It's going to be hard.
No, it's not.
It's worth.
It's going to be easy.
All right, fine.
I mean, it can be hard to do it right and get it all, nailed down. Sprinkling humanity. This is a way of making the organization's leader human. That is powerful. That is good stuff. Promise.
Do that good stuff. You won't be sorry. It's like eating your vegetables.
Yeah.
Over time, it'll just work.
Yeah.
This was episode X, episode 10, episode Deca of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.
And you can't believe the talking to I'm going to get when we're off.
Yeah. Patreons can get the postscript, the deleted scenes. Send us your feedback.
Positive or negative.
Positive or negative.
That's right.
To podcast@oneicity.com. Give us your 5-star reviews on the podcast platform of your choice. And tune in next week for episode 11, where we'll talk about using the Farmer's Almanac to plan your next event.
Ooh, can't wait. I'm Steve Thomas, CEO
I'm Ryan Thomas,
of
Vice
Oneicity.
President of Oneicity. Character Diamond, find your weakness, find your hill you'll die on.
There you go. I love it.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Tune back in next week for another fresh episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.